1, 2, 3, 4.
I sat there while you pled your case for confidence and secrets to be erased. I was riddled by your words. I bet that you could hardly wait.
What's going on, everyone? I am Jeremiah, and you, as you well know, are listening to Daddy Diatribes. Thank you for joining me today. As always, I appreciate you listening, and I hope you are enjoying the show, maybe even getting something out of it. But really, I'm just here for your pleasure. If you want to contact me for any reason, and at this point my email is empty enough that those reasons even include soliciting me with products and services that I have no interest in, you can email me at daddydiatriber@gmail.com. You can figure out how to spell that. So, what do I, Emery. Emery is the band that plays the music at the beginning and end of these songs. About a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I contacted them and asked them if I could use some of their music for a podcast, which I did, and I used for a totally different podcast, but I didn't tell them which one. So I'm just using some of their music for a new podcast, this one, and thinking that if they ever get troubled by it, I'll just let them know that they told me I could use it for a podcast and never specified which podcast that was. So if you want to check them out, I really like them as a band, and both of these songs come from the album You Were Never Alone, which is a concept album where every song is about a Bible story or a Bible character, but if you listen to the music, you wouldn't know it. And I appreciate subtlety in Christian music, probably because it is usually quite lacking in Christian music, where people don't necessarily know it's about Jesus unless you say Jesus, Jesus, God, heaven, love, mountains, river. I suppose I should talk about something else since we're halfway through the show. All right, so what I want to talk about today is what your kid owes you. You know, you hear things sometimes, and sometimes they're caricatures, but it is also reflective of an attitude that parents have, where parents, I think the common phrase is, I brought you into this world, I can take you out of it. But that attitude is, that phrase is not something that parents necessarily say word for word, but they often have that sort of attitude about it, that their kid owes them something because they created them and gave them life and took care of them. And I want to let you parents know that this is one experience, this is one thing that having parented a child a little bit, just for 4 months, which is not very long. I know a lot of your parents are saying, oh, you know what's coming. It's going to be a lot harder after this. And I believe you. I trust you. I understand that there is a lot that's easy about a baby relative to a toddler and a preteen and a teenager, and everywhere in between, there's a lot more difficulties. So you can warn me if you want, but I understand to some degree that things are going to get a lot more complicated and difficult. But even at just 4 months, I feel like I've sacrificed a lot of time and energy and money and relationships and just getting stuff done. For my kid, all these things I gave up for him. Even just spending time in frustration instead of being joyful is something I've given up for him. And I love just sitting around being frustrated. But I understand why, more so than I did before having a kid, more intimately, why parents would think that their kid owes them something. It's a perfectly reasonable emotion. But it is simply ridiculous when you think about the process of actually having a kid. You know, when we look at what it means to have a child, we as parents, whether we adopted our kid or engaged in the act of vaginal sexual intercourse, we made a decision that resulted in that kid coming into the world, or at the very least, being completely dependent upon us. As people, as parents, as people that, this is not the case with adoption, but in my case, as someone who forced my kid into existence without his consent, the very least that I owe him is love and is provision for his physical needs, and is teaching him how to be a person in this world, and is patience and compassion and caring and showing him the best way to be a human that I know how, that I know how, that I know who. I don't know why I decided to use the wrong word there. That is my minimum level of obligation, is doing all those things for him. Unless I do those things, I'm not even meeting my minimal ethical obligation for forcing someone into existence without their consent. And because of that, he doesn't owe me anything. He owes me when he gets older. He doesn't owe me when I get older. He doesn't owe me taking care of me. He doesn't owe me gratitude. He doesn't even owe me obedience. He has no obligations in this relationship. They are all mine because I caused it to happen. And when we think about the reason, a lot of this podcast is me making suggestions about how to think about children and parents and our relationships with them in a way that I believe is most accurate. And I think that the truth is something that helps us live our lives more fully and in ways which bring more life to us and to those around us. So I think thinking about things more accurately is more truthful and thus will help our lives. Thinking about kids this way, thinking about us as having the primary obligation to our children, really the only obligation, helps us to release our expectations of our children and release our feelings that they owe us something. And this allows us to enjoy more the moments when they are grateful and they are enjoying us and they are helping around the house and they do help us when they are out of the house and get older, because they are not something that we expect of them, but they are something that is like the cherry on top. And it allows us to treat our children differently. When we think about our children as owing us, I do not think we will treat them with as much respect or love or patience or kindness or understanding, especially in the difficult moments when they aren't doing what we feel like they should be doing in the moment. But the truth is, they don't owe us. They don't owe us obedience, and they are not supposed, just by nature of existing, to do everything that we say. And so without these expectations placed upon our child, and without this feeling that they are obligated to us, I think we help create an environment where they are more free to be themselves. And in this environment, we can do one of the best things about parenting, and we can experience one of the greatest parts about being a parent, which is watching someone become who they are and helping that process happen, helping their transformation into the person that they want to be occur. And as we interact with them with patience, without expectation or judgment, and with compassion and empathy and presence and love and support and provision and all, the good things parents should provide, we will find, I am 99 point lots of nines percent convinced that, they do care about us, and they do want to get along well with us, and they are grateful for our provision of them, and they are grateful for us bringing them into the world, and they do have a desire to care for us in their old age, and they do value our relationship with them and value the things that we have done for them. But that will come about in an organic way just by us being loving without expectation or judgment. And it doesn't need to come about by us trying to impose our feelings that they owe us something upon them, because those feelings come from a come from bullshit. Feelings that come from bullshit aren't feelings worth hanging on to, and certainly aren't things that we should be imposing upon our children or trying to make them feel. I hope some of that made sense. It's almost 2 a.m. Love you guys. Thanks for joining me. Peace.
You ever catch yourself just thinking of a way to get out? It's like a reflex motion.